Yeah.
So many times we feel that we're meant for more, that we want more, but something holds us back on too many levels. How do we get through all these things that we need to? It's all about us. And yet, when we look at ourselves and we think it's all about us, the first thing that enters our mind is we're selfish. How often do we think that? I know I grew up in that level of as a young woman, when I started out my life and my career. How dare I say I was going to do something for myself when it should have been about my family, about my kids, and so forth. And it was a horrible thing to sit down and put your feet up because there was always something else to do. But too often, we don't listen. Welcome to Let's Get Real. My name is Glenda Kroll, and my partner is
Nicole Harvick here with you today.
And we want to thank you for joining us today. Too often, as I said, we ignore the signs that are being told to us. And it happens to all of us. Something starts to happen in our own bodies. It's like that little whisper that starts to come in. Maybe your toe hurts and you don't pay attention. Maybe there's something that's... But here's the thing that happens to us all. That toe that hurts, maybe you turn it around and you end up breaking it because you didn't listen to that little voice that was sparkling in you and telling you to slow down, not to do something. And you know what? You're no different than me because we all do it. But it's the whole idea as we get older and as I believe we get wiser, we start to listen a little bit more. And when we do, we actually save ourselves from some lot of hard times. What do you think about that, Nicole?
I love that, and I so agree with that. And at this point in our lives, we do get to slow down a little bit and maybe just take that breath. And the clients that I work with who have trauma, now we all have trauma in our body from something at some point, whether it's ancestral or whether it's yesterday, and our body remembers everything. And it's really weird that we're talking about this today because for the past 3 days, I have either been dropping things or knocking something over or spilling something, and I'm like, this is so weird. I never do this. What is up? And I heard a voice say, you're not paying attention. Well, it doesn't necessarily mean I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing in that moment, but it's telling me something much bigger in terms of pay attention to your life, pay attention to your surroundings, pay attention to who you're talking to, who you're meeting with. So it's a bigger message than just be careful where you don't sit the water on a ledge, which I did. It was just like, I'm like, come on. So yes, and it is time. And I think oftentimes as women, I know when I, had my family, we're conditioned that we must not stop. We must not sit down. And I can even remember my ex being furious with me if I wanted to read the morning paper. He says, how can you do that? That's the first thing you want to do. It's like, well, I've got my kids off to school and I've, fixed everyone breakfast. Why can I not sit down for 20 minutes? And obviously reading the paper, we don't even do that anymore. So that tells you how long ago it was. But we are entitled to have a moment of peace. We are entitled to have a moment when we can let our bodies tell us something. And I was just very grateful that mine just chimed in like that, because my thing was, what the hell is going on? You're not paying attention. It was like the words just, okay.
And it's so important because we don't listen to it all the time. And I know half my life I didn't do that. I know half my life that, it took times when I either threw my back out and I couldn't walk. And it took times where I had to be in bed until whatever had happened, pinched nerves and all the rest of it, which ended up being weeks on end of not being able to move. Too many times that we get hit by the hard things. So it's time to start paying attention. And sometimes it's really difficult. So last week, when whoever came in and came with us, I was away, and it was a beautiful week and visiting a beautiful island, Saint Martin, in the Caribbean. And I brought my computer, I had a book, I had all these things that I wanted to do, and yet I just got to the point where I couldn't do it. And part of it was because before all of this, I was running like a crazy woman with so many things on my plate to do, because it's more than just running a business in life. I am not like part of my life that I live is also caring for other people. And when all of these things start to happen, we just keep going. And we have to get to the point where we start to become aware.
Absolutely.
And part of this is the awareness, is what we're going to be talking about today. So our guest has just shown up, and we're going to be talking more about becoming aware, of coming into yourself, of doing the things that we need to do. So Nicole, please introduce our guest.
And it's absolutely perfect right now to have her show up, because she's an astrologist, she's a psychic, she's a naturopathic physician, and a spiritual coach. And I love this part, because this is what we're talking about. She is here to help turn pain into purpose by the process of elimination and elevation, which is really what we're talking about, elevating our consciousness to listen to our bodies, to listen to our soul, and to listen to the universe. So let's bring up Natasha Davini.
Hello, Natasha. Welcome.
Hi, guys. I'm glad to be here. Sorry about the delay.
No, you know what? Glenda flowed into that beautifully. So, your timing's perfect. And what we've been talking about is kind of listening to our bodies and becoming familiar with ourselves and learning who we are, so we can understand our messages better and better work with the universe instead of against it. So I know you know a lot about that. So what would you say to us about being aware of what's going on with ourselves, with our surroundings, with the universe?
So awareness comes in like a three-stage process, I guess. So many people get kind of like stuck in the 3D aspect of it, but it's so much deeper. They want to use a logical standpoint, but a lot of things really defy logic. You have to listen to your heart. When you tune in and you tap into that inner knowing, intuition, psychic abilities, however you want to look at it, you would be just it's astounding at what you can hear and perceive, and get as in like a source of information per se from outside influences. Awareness comes on so many different levels for so many different people, but once you achieve a mastery of self-awareness, you can communicate with guides, spirits, ancestors. You can read people. Everybody has the ability to do it. It's all about listening to yourself.
Yeah. And I was telling Glenda that for some reason this week I've been, like I spilt my water, I dropped something, and I immediately heard, "You're not paying attention." And when I hear something like that, it's on a much bigger level than just the water spilling. So then I become like super aware of my surroundings and what's going on and where I'm walking and is someone following me. So one of the things I'm curious, you mentioned 3D, and I know that there's a lot of people in 3D right now, but there's a lot of us waking up to a 5D dimensional shift and reality. What's the difference between the two? How would you explain that?
So the difference between the two is that if you are fueled by the negative aspects of ego, quote unquote, I don't really feel like they're negative, but we'll just use that for kind of like the consensus. If I can get the word out of my mouth, consensus of things. Um, um, when we eliminate what I guess is holding us back from authenticity, so many people want to fit in. And instead of fitting in, when you learn who you are and step into your authenticity, regardless of what the naysayers say, you elevate. You start looking at things from a different perspective. The little things start to matter more, like that water spilling for you. It was more of the deep root cause versus, oh, if I spilled the water, it was just an accident. Nothing is accidental. And as you reach a level like 4D, 5D, you understand that everything is connected. Everything from the trees, the plants, the animals, yourself, everything is connected. And there are signs and synchronicities that the universe will play in front of you, like angel numbers is a big one in the community. When you start seeing those angel numbers, you just elevated to the 4D consciousness. And then there's 5, 60, and it goes all the way up to 13 dimensions.
Yeah, that's crazy. And for me, looking back, when I was in more of a 3D consciousness, it just seems so superficial, I guess, for me now. I'm not saying it for anyone else, because some people are not going to be stepping up, but spending my time in a bar or spending my time talking about sports for me anymore. I would rather sit in my silence. I would rather read a book. I want to gather knowledge instead of, I want to have more awareness, I guess, than just biding my time with things I have been conditioned to think was okay.
But let's stop for a second, because it's not about, this is what you have found that feeds your soul.
Right.
But for somebody else that feeds their soul, maybe it is sitting in a bar with a person where they could be learning something. Where the environment is really secondary, right? It's who you put yourself with, which actually matters most than anything else. It's who you're connecting yourself with. Where you are at means nothing. I can be sitting anywhere at any time, but who am I going to be giving my energy to and work together or connect with, I think is more of the primal outlook that we should be looking at.
I absolutely agree.
Who's going to build you? Are you with the builders, or are you with the people that are taking you down? For me, I don't care where I'm at. As long as I'm with people that bring me up, that make me laugh, that make me think, that make me shine, I'm all there.
I'm with Glenda.
Yeah, and see, for me, it's I'm at a point where it is about the person that I'm with, but because there are other people in there that are not in my headspace, for me, it's very distracting to sit in a place like that. So I can be with someone that's going to rise me up, but the other person might not, or the atmosphere might not, or the music might not. So for me, it's a very distracting place. I have to be someplace a little more calm than someplace like that. And generally, that is not a place where calmness exists, because even if you have one drink, you've altered yourself just a little bit. So, speaking for me, that's not a place I can absorb anything positive.
Okay,
And
well, and we all, I think the key here, if I'm not mistaken, is when we're aware of what we can do in ourselves, what makes us feel good or doesn't. For me, going out to anywhere, if it is a bar and there's going to be people there that I like and I can have fun and I can dance a bit and laugh, then I'm game. But if I'm going to be at a place where they're downers, Debbie Downer is there, and everybody's judging me by looking at me up and down. Well, hello, goodbye now. It really is depending on, but the key asset here is being aware of what serves you. And at the time, like, not all time do I want to go to a bar. As a matter of fact, I hardly go to bars really anymore. It's not kind of my thing. I'm not looking to meet people, but I'm saying it's knowing, at the time, what are you feeling? What do you need? Sometimes we need to be in quiet. We need to have solitude. And sometimes we need people. Like, I'm a people person. What feeds me are people. And at times I need that bit of injection into my soul. So I think that's really what we have to start being aware of. And I think that you tell me, Natasha, for me, it's like the number one thing of learning about yourself is that awareness.
it is, and it sets the foundation for everything else in your life because not only do you learn to set firm boundaries and respect for yourself, but you learn to eliminate those people pleasing behaviors, or your boundaries are a lot more firmer and where you want to go, who you want to hang out with. And it makes it easier for you to navigate frustrating situations, more peaceful situations. You can turn pain into power by that process because when you hit an area like you were just discussing where the people are just really negative, you can feel that they're just judging you, condemning you. Once you hit that level of awareness, it doesn't bother you anymore. You're just like, oh, this place is not for me. You don't analyze it or
Yeah.
not reminisce, but ruminate on it. You just remove yourself from the situation and you go and place yourself with people who align with your soul's trajectory, your peace and space and all that good stuff. And it will set your life up on a whole other level. It honestly does. And if more people started walking in their authenticity and listening to, themselves versus just trying to fit in, everybody would be a lot happier, even if they are quote unquote in the 3D matrix. That, everybody has a choice. You can choose to change your mindset and become aware of what, your boundaries and your awareness means for you because it's different on every level for every person.
Do you see it happening more and more right now in terms of people becoming aware of who they are and what they need?
I do, and it's absolutely beautiful. I've been waiting for this for a long time. So, um, a lot of people in general, when you go out into the general population now, if you just got to go shopping, you're starting to see a lot more people that you can just feel them. They can feel you, or they're wearing crystals or whatnot, or however they choose to define their spirituality or path or whatnot. And people are a lot more receptive to having open conversations about mental health and stigmas. And it's beautiful. There is such a healing presence in the collective right now that I'm astounded, honestly. It amazes me every day that these people are just growing so confident and trusting themselves and learning to navigate the system for what works best for them.
Yeah.
I think that the past has actually been a great leader to us as well. Like, I think COVID was an unfortunate thing that happened to the world, but in some respects, and unfortunately, there's still too many people that are still um, dealing with all the what happened through COVID. They haven't gotten through, but what it did do for us is that it opened the conversations of more of mental health, loneliness, all of these things that we are going through. So people are more opened instead of judging because, listen, I lived my entire life of watching people judge. I have two brothers with special needs, and from
Mm.
a child, I've been watching people judging for my entire life. Now, the world has changed very much. It's not 100%, nor will it ever be, but people, I think, get a little bit whelmed in their own feelings because they have their own inadequacies. And when you feel inadequate, you start looking at others and you start judging them. When you're secure within your own means, you're not judging anymore. You can accept people for who they are. But I think our past has helped us to become where we are. So maybe, for how horrible that was, maybe it's given us a little bit of glory.
Absolutely. And I mean that when you look at it in a bigger collective too, you mentioned COVID. Speaking from experience, that's why I always say I turn, pain into basically a pastime, but more of a presence or a purpose, because you can use your background, where you came from, any type of pain, and turn it into purpose. I have a serious story to tell that when I tell my story, people look at me like, and you smile? Yes, I do. Because anything that you go through can become a purpose if you align yourself with the lessons versus getting stuck in the stagnancy of, well, this happened to me and I'm just the victim. We don't have to be the victim. We can move
Absolutely.
forward.
Now, okay, now you've already opened up something. You can't open up a thing of fish and not share with us. So
Yeah, the story. We want the story.
The story. All right. So let's begin with so I have always been a medium. I didn't just awaken like a lot of people. I've been seeing them since I was a little tiny girl. My mom can contest to this, and for the longest time she tried to protect me because she didn't want them trying to come and steal me and lock me up in an insane asylum or something, but I've been this way my whole life. Unfortunately, because of that, I was very much ostracized through my whole entire life.
Mm.
People were afraid of me. I had no friends because I seen dead people. I was very verbal about, hey, I see dead people, guys. Um, and I became a target. I was made fun of. My relationships, they couldn't lie to me. I always knew things, and it put a big old target on my back. But I also went through things that, the loss of everybody that I considered the closest to me. I have lost everybody.
Oh.
To So that is kind of why I came out. But I also was kidnapped by a pimp at 21 years old. I survived. I was almost murdered 3 times. I had an ex who put a gun to my head and he pulled the trigger. I'm still here. It jammed. The gun jammed.
Wow.
I was not supposed to die that day.
yeah,
And there's a lot of other, triggering events that happened in my life as long as I can remember. The devil was trying to attack me with a lot of generational trauma, down to a lot of generational trauma that women suffer every day as a woman. You know, you can overcome anything. And I'm living proof of that.
I
Like
believe
there has
so.
been some things that it took a lot of therapy to get those nightmares to go away, but they
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
They did.
Wow. That's crazy. Now, I also know from interviewing you before, you have worked with the police to solve cases, haven't you?
I do. I still do very much. Every other day, I'm getting some new case. I work closely with a lot of the missing persons. A matter of fact,
Mhm.
I was contacted by a woman whose daughter has been missing for about 2 years now. Um, they are looking in the area that I was shown. So it's kind of crazy how it works. Like if you show me a picture of somebody who is missing or deceased, I can tap into the picture and they will show me their last moments and where they're located. I have located a lot of cold cases and missing people, and I'm talking hundreds of them.
Wow.
Wow. How hard is that for you? I mean, because I know some of them aren't found alive, so for you to
Unfortunately,
for you to see their last moments, how do you reconcile that?
so I guess I'm used to it. There's not really any type of reconciliation that I need because like this gift didn't just like I didn't just wake up one day like I've always been this way. The only reconciliation that I guess would come from that is helping somebody locate somebody that's missing because there's nothing like grief. especially when you don't know what happened to them.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it can be pretty hard because there's been a couple cases that they got me. The only thing I can say is you cry it out and you go about your business and just understand that when we cross over, it's not nothing like they teach us. So they're not really gone, just most people can't see them. So
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
how do you deal with the fact of when you're feeling like, okay, so explain to us, I'm not going to perceive that you're feeling something. When you're shown a picture of somebody who has gone missing, what type of feelings or how does your body react?
So I kind of go into a trance. That's the only way that I can explain to you how it works for me. Um, Jim actually shared something like last week that kind of clicked, and because I've been looking for the answer on what is this, because it's like I constantly always walk in like the subconscious. That's the only way I can explain to you how it works. So when I see a picture, I just immediately trance out, and you'll notice that I'll be looking like this way because this is how I see them, and then I just start getting picture reels. It's kind of like an old 3D picture reel that just flashes before my eyes, and I see everything that occurred from the time that they may have been abducted or whatnot. And sometimes I'll even see things about their whole life. Sometimes they actually will like come and manifest in the physical reality, and I can see them like I see people. So I have a whole conversation with them.
And do you have to do something afterwards for your own self to cleanse your own self so that all of this doesn't stay within you?
Palo Santo's on deck 24/7.
She's got it right there with her. It's like,
Okay.
Yeah, it's in every corner of my house. I have salt down everywhere. I have crystals everywhere you go. I have signs on my walls that I've hand painted, protection things, things along those lines. My family is actually Lakota, so we're Native American, we're indigenous. So we have a lot of spiritual practices that we do to protect ourselves. As for anything like meditation or anything like that, I mean, I take spiritual baths, but that's about it. And I guess it's just because I'm just so used to like walking in it that other than the Palo Santo, that's about it for me. I don't have to do anything special, if that makes sense.
Okay, so the people are going to be wondering of what is a spiritual bath for those who are watching and don't know.
So that is absolutely beautiful. You can do it many ways. My favorite way is to take an array of like Epsom salts, different ones for different things. Himalayan is my favorite, but you also mix different herbs, roses, rosemary, basil, whatever it is that you need to detox or cleanse from your body. So on a physical level and a physical standpoint, depending on what herbs you use, they can actually eliminate all the toxins from your body. This includes negative energy as well as physical parasites, parasitical infections, bacteria, viruses. It actually will come through the skin into the back, and it will help tremendously, especially if you're prone to sickness or you're always achy or you just feel heavy. Do it.
wow.
You won't regret it.
One thing you just mentioned is parasites, and I've been doing a lot of research into that. And I'm finding that they're talking now about neurological diseases being caused by parasites. And we're the only country that doesn't use, a parasite cleanse twice a year. So I'm just curious, what are the good herbs, or I detox in borax and like Celtic salt, but what are the good herbs for a detox bath for
So
parasites?
there's sorry to cut you off. There's a couple of them. My favorite is wormwood.
Mhm.
Wormwood, if I can get my mouth to operate correctly today. It works tremendously, especially for people who are new to herbs because it's not a higher potency per se. You just eat it, chew on it. You can put it under your tongue. It will absorb that way as well. You don't necessarily have to swallow it, and do that for 4 days straight. It will eliminate most parasites. If you're not familiar with herbs, you can also use pumpkin seeds. Just
Mhm.
fry them in the oven, put them up, eat them. You're good to go. I would do that for a week and a half.
Okay.
Parasites live within every part of our body. They are not just in our gut, they are in our liver, they are in our stomach, they are in our intestines, they are in your heart, your lungs, and your brain. A fun fact that most people don't know, if you suffer from an autoimmune disorder, it is absolutely parasitical.
Yeah, I've been studying that, and it's something when you read about them, it's like, my gosh, why isn't anyone talking about this? And so I did a parasite cleanse in July,
Mhm.
and I feel like I need to do another one. So that's why, and I've heard black walnut as well.
Yeah, and it'll work so well for you. Plus, it's easy on your stomach, and it doesn't taste that bad either. So that's another thing, because taste gets a lot of people, which is why they don't want to do the whole healthy thing, and I don't blame them. Some of that stuff is full, but
Yeah.
I would absolutely do it every quarter. You should
Okay.
really do it 4 times a year, because you can go outside and just by stepping in the dirt outside, unfortunately, depending on where you live at, there's parasites everywhere. If you're in contact with somebody else that has liver flukes, for example, you absolutely can and will get them from the shedding of the skin.
Wow, that's crazy. And I know I was a huge sushi fan. So, I've had to cut that out. And it's just crazy that that's something that's not really talked about here.
It honestly is. I mean, we gotta, I gotta watch exactly how I word this. The end goal is illness. I mean, that's just really what it is, which is why it's not really talked about here so much in the States. But every other country but us literally will detox both from a metal toxicity versus anything else. I guess this is the best way to explain what I'm trying to say here. And then you're parasitical. So there's two types of detoxes. If you want to do heavy metals, which is another big problem, that's why a lot of people have memory issues.
Yeah.
You have a lot of cramps in your legs, things like that. It is actually heavy metals. So you want to get some zeolite powder. Very simple. You mix it in a glass of water, you drink it every morning.
What is it? D
Zeolite powder.
Oh, I've never heard of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is beautiful, has no taste. It's very easygoing. It'll also cleanse your whole body. You won't have to do the borax cleanse no more. I mean, unless you like to. But yeah,
I've been
very easy.
taking I've been taking borax. I've been putting it in capsule form and taking 2 a day, so that borax is just boron. It's a mineral.
It is.
So, yeah, and everyone, you're eating soap. It's like, well, it's
Yeah.
working.
They
So
want
it's
you to
not like
think
I'm
it's stuff
eating.
so you don't know what it really does for your body. That's like
Yeah.
that's like another one that they don't really talk about is most people suffer illnesses because we have magnesium deficiencies,
Mm,
especially as women. Fun fact, Celtic salt, put a couple crystals under your tongue, put it in your water, drink it every morning. Your mineral deficiency will go away. It will also help you absorb all the other minerals and vitamins that you're actually deficient in.
wow. And you're a naturopath, doctor, physician, right?
That is correct. Mhm.
So how how do you do all this? I guess would be, you're solving cases, you're a physician. That's a lot.
It is a lot. It is absolutely a lot. And there are some days where I will be like, you know what? I am just going to take the day off. We'll reschedule everybody because it's a lot. So a very strict schedule. And I do mean a very strict schedule. I plan my schedule out from minute to minute every single day, and I have to stick to it because if I do not stick to it, something goes chaotic or I miss somebody or it's all about scheduling. You have to have the balance, but you also have to have like the drive and ambition to like really want to do it and really love what you do. And on all aspects of what I do, I love it. So it's not so much work for me anymore. It's about helping people.
Yeah, that's so important.
Well, and besides that, it feeds you, right? So that's the most important thing. It's your nourishment to be able to be there to be helping others on a
It
much
is
deeper level.
it is because, there's still, going back to like the whole COVID, that we were talking about. So many people felt so alone.
Mm,
I mean, even with people around them, people feel so alone. The naturopathic physician standpoint, all of my clients have went to doctors, to doctor, to doctor, and nobody can figure it out. They're given the runaround, sent to a different doctor, and they're suffering. And people are tired of suffering. They need somebody to help them. And it gives me great purpose and passion to, excuse me, not only help them alleviate their pain or illness or whatnot, but to see them bloom and flourish and actually start to love life again. Because when we start to hurt or, we feel alone and lost, we lose our luster for life. And there's nothing more sad or that will pull on my heartstrings more than watching somebody who's lost the light in their eyes. That's why I love what I do.
Yeah, I hear you. And I agree with you 1,000,000%. I
And
think
it's
that's why the three of us are doing what we're all doing is the same thing.
exactly. And I can remember when I had no light in my eyes. I looked back. I didn't know it at the time. Sometimes I don't think you know it until you reflect back. But there's a lot of people that, have lost the light in their eyes. And it's so beautiful to finally see when it comes back. You can see that spark, and I've been talking to a lady, and I just looked at her and I thought she always looks scared. She always looks so scared. And we had a conversation a couple of days ago, and it was explained to me what was going on. And I'm like, well, no wonder. So you can see someone's light dim through their eyes.
You
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
I'm
The
sorry.
eyes are the soul to their universe. I believe in that. I've been all through my life. I've looked at people's eyes. I also see there's a lot with children whose parents have also constantly put them down. Where you see children who have no light into their eyes, and you can see and feel that sadness
Yeah.
that comes from them.
And that is kind of the worst thing, like when you encounter adults or children or young children that have went through so much turmoil. Um, it's almost like you make it your soul's purpose at that point to help that person. Like you just have to. And I know you can't save everybody, but it just it pulls on your heart like something that you can't even explain or even fathom at that point because you just wonder like how people could do that. Um, Especially if you came from a troubled, childhood. But generational trauma is a very real thing. And unfortunately, until people recognize that a lot of the ways that they were raised, in the old days, that just set us up for failure, which is why so many people are stuck in that energy now. And then it takes years to help them like purge it because a lot of people are sick, because they're holding on to the emotional trauma. And all of it goes all the way back to childhood.
And you
And
both probably remember, when we were younger, you had a children's table and you were seen but not heard, so you're conditioned sometimes from the time you're a child to not speak your truth, and then that can carry over. And I know it took me a long time after a disastrous marriage with a narcissist to start speaking my truth.
Been there, Nicole. I relate.
So, when you finally do speak, you're a little bit timid, but then you start realizing that it's cleansing your soul. The talk is helping you release everything. And I just, encourage people to speak and talk and be heard, and that everyone
trust
has a story.
Yeah, and trust themselves. That's the other thing why people tend to climb up because they don't trust themselves of what they have to say. Everybody's
Yeah,
got a special message.
they do. And, some people are so afraid of stepping out and being authentic to themselves because they're like, everybody's going to laugh at me. And I always tell everybody, I'm like, regardless, of who you are and what you do, somebody is always going to judge you. So you might as well just live happily in your little world and let them judge you, because you're just not doing anything but making yourself stifled. And you've got big things to release there. And the more that we release, the better, understanding of our awareness and the awareness of everybody else around us becomes. It's a very beautiful, liberating, freeing experience. And I want everybody to do it.
Yeah, and you're right that people are going to judge you regardless. And anymore, that would have bothered me maybe 20 plus years ago, but now it's like, if you don't resonate with me and you're going to judge me, we're not going to get along anyway. So go ahead and do it, and I'm going to find my people, you go find yours.
Yes, and that's a beautiful mindset to have too, because you don't feel confined anymore. That's something else is that I've noticed that I don't really feel like, confined to try to fit in, like you said. And it's beautiful when you reach that level of awareness because you're like, okay, I respect you and you respect me, and everybody just lives harmoniously, even if it's not in the same room. Like,
Yeah,
we don't have to be afraid. We really don't. You
yeah,
know,
Well, I
if I
think once you come to that decision that now people are going to talk no matter what, anyways. So when you get to the point of say what you need to say, or I don't really care. It's none of my business what you say. It's none of my business what you say about me. I'm kind of cool with whatever. If you like me, great. If you don't like me, that's great too. I'm going to love you and leave you. That's it.
I love that philosophy. Absolutely love it.
yeah.
Well, it's not going to be in our I think I came to this realization when I was going through my divorce, and I saw that my ex had more hatred for me than he had love for his children.
Ooh,
Broke my heart because the kids were suffering so much. And I got to the point of saying, I even saying to him, is this hatred doing you any good? He already had health problems. That hatred is only hurting you. You know what? I don't really care anymore. I don't need what you're offering, which you're not. I don't need. I don't care what you think or whatever. Somehow I'm going to make it through. So don't pay me child support. Don't do anything for. I don't care. Just don't care anymore. I'm out of the game of being hurt or doing anything. For me, it was always about just now I'm here to just make sure those kids are strong within themselves, and I will show them what love means.
The
But
correct version of love. And I resonate with that as well. I also, unfortunately, met my nefarious ex narcissist that I still have to co parent with. And
yeah,
I'm
my
like, I know
condolences.
that story all too well. I think every woman that's in this path has that some part of that aspect to tell. But the children do end up suffering when we just stay. And watching the light leave their eyes was a pain that we just can't. As a mother, you'll
oh,
do anything to remove that, even if it meant removing yourself. And I commend any woman who does that because it takes a lot to leave a narcissist. And even for a psychic, I mean, so to all the ladies watching, listen, I am really psychic, like completely psychic, and I fell for a narcissist. So they get everybody. So don't feel bad about it if that happened to you. Just move past it. But do whatever you got to do to get away from them, even if you
yeah.
have to get help.
And I think I went into it as a healer thinking I could heal him or I could help him. And I got caught in that trap. And Glenda, I know you're like that. Natasha, I'm sure you are too. We can help them, and we can't because they won't even help themselves. You
Well, I
know?
think that's what did it for me. I've lost when you lose all respect for somebody and you see that, as you see them hating everybody else, you get to the point of, if you can't help yourself, then I can't help you.
Yeah.
And we got to get to the point, as Doreen is watching us now, and she's loving this talk because Doreen, we got to be real here. That's what we're all about here. But we got to be real because when we get to the point that we can't save everybody in our world, and
Yeah.
even it could be even our own children, You know, if you got a child who was abusive to you, you know, you got to also then step out of it. There's all different levels and different worlds, and we got to realize part of it is of loving and respecting ourselves. That's where we got to start with. And if you have a husband that's abusing you mentally, physically, you know, whatever he's doing to you, and I know I had the whole narcissistic family. It was beyond crazy, but you know, it was thinking that they had money and they could control everything. And it's like, no, money doesn't talk for everything. Love to me talks. If somebody can't treat you with love and respect, you got to leave, and you've got to realize where it's coming from.
Absolutely.
And right? And this comes through your children. This comes through your loved ones. It comes through even bosses, whoever is around. You got to realize your worth. And that's where it really comes through, right?
It does. It absolutely does.
And sometimes it takes a while for you to get the courage, you know, because they've treated you so poorly that sometimes you think, well, you know, you get that, well, maybe he's right, or maybe I should do this, or, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute. You know, I'm not a bad person. I might not be perfect, which none of us are. However, I have good intention. Intention is everything. And then, you know, when you realize you have two girls watching you, it's like, man, I don't want this for them. You know, I'm not being a good role model if I stay here. And
well,
so
that's exactly why I left my first marriage. All of a sudden, I looked at things and I said to, you know, thinking that, you know, sure, we had a beautiful home and had a car and all the rest of the stuff. But then I was sat back one day and I said, I'm lying to my kids. I'm showing my kids that in a relationship, there's no respect. You know, there's nothing but anger. There's a lot of arguments, and there's no hugging and kissing, and that's what a relationship should be showing, not the other. And I said, I'm lying to me and I'm lying to them, and that was the end of it. It was like, no, I got to stop. We got to realize what we are doing, and never mind to anybody else. Again, to us.
absolutely, as women. And isn't that interesting that all three of us have that in common?
As people.
As people, yeah.
I'm going to go a step further, not as women, as people, because there are a lot of men that are in relationships that they're being physically, mentally abused, you know, all different ways. So as a person, you know, we have to be strong for ourselves, whether we are male or female. And there's a lot of phenomenally great dads that are out there. The world has shifted, and men don't just go to work and come home and sit on the couch. There's a lot of guys that are coming home and making dinner and doing stuff and taking the kids and all the rest. Like, we got to call it, you know, it is what it is, right?
It absolutely is. And it does go on both sides of the spectrum. You know, I actually have more male clients that have dealt with like narcissistic abuse or something along those lines than I do women, which I found astounding. But, you know, we don't have to take abuse from anybody. And once we learn that lesson, and I don't care if it's your mama, your brother, your daddy, you do not have to accept that, and nor should you. Because the value is not dictated as other people's perceptions of us. The value lies within how you look at yourself. And if you're not liking the reflection, I promise you, you can change it. I promise you, you can. And I wish people would step up and realize that. I do, you know, I do love that I am seeing that they are, but sometimes, you know, you come across that person that you're just like, man, I really wish I could save you, but we can't.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
people have suffered at the hands of, you know, a psychopath or a sociopath or a narcissist, that they're just so bound and broken that it's almost like their soul just left, like they're just a shell.
Yeah. You know, and when I thought of that, I actually read the book Soul Retrieval, and it helped me to understand what had happened a little bit, because the soul is missing. It can leave the body if it's too traumatized. And I really feel that happened with my ex. And, you know, my question for you, Natasha, is is what do you see coming up for us with this huge transition that we're going through, and the awareness that is starting to unfold, and the people that are starting to love themselves, or at least learning that they are lovable and that they can love themselves no matter what someone has said. What do you see in the near future for something like that?
So, as in a collective whole, a lot of people who are spiritually aligned, especially if you are like a Capricorn, this is your year. Get ready, guys. But definitely check your life path numbers. Your life path numbers is going to tell you a lot about what this year unfolds for you. But most people who are spiritually awakening at this time, life is just getting started. That business idea that you're being plagued with, jump and do it because that's what you're supposed to be doing. Most of you are being called to be speakers, leaders, healers, motivational coaches, whatever it is, jump because it's going to bring in a lot of prosperity and abundance for you. And that's whatever it means for you, whether it is love, whether it is success, whether it is money, helping people. There is a lot of successful energy, especially this year of 2024.
Nice.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
yes, finally. Not that it's been a huge struggle, but there have been setbacks. There have been certain things as we left 2020 and hopped over a few walls to get there. But I feel the same way you do, that when I look back, I see the why of it, at least, and why we went through that. Like Glenda said, it was kind of eye-opening for us, the loneliness. And I really feel like now we're coming upon something much maybe easier in terms of, understanding it, not saying, well, what is this? What is this feeling? But just, you talk about thinking. I always tell people you've got to start thinking with your heart, because that is your true center. And as we ascend, that's where you're going to have to go. Yeah, you've got your gut too, but those of us who are starting to understand how important and what a role our heart plays in our life with love and abundance. And, anytime I have to, I go straight to my heart, put my hand on my heart and just listen.
And the gratitude too, that will also push you forward more. Like it goes, when you listen to your heart, it actually will eliminate, or not eliminate, but radiate, I think it's like 10 times more electromagnetic fields than your brain does. So it goes back to the conscious, of being aware. The more you tune in and listen to your heart, the more your vibration raises. You'll actually see it start to like go around you, and everything will start to align better than it already had. Your mindset changes, your skin starts glowing. You just are a lot happier. Even when little things happen, you're like, that's all right. It was no big deal. Like, I've got this. I'm meant for this. It changes everything. And it is beautiful because so many people are listening more to their heart, and I'm watching their reality shift just like their internal reality or their internal narrative. And so many people have a lot of big blessings coming for them this
Wow.
year,
What a cool
especially
time to be alive.
yeah.
Well, I certainly hope for that for this year more than any other year, because we see a lot of divide too this year, and through that divide brings, unfortunately, some heavy hearts as well, because there is one world. It's so easy to there's so much out there. There's so much of wealth. There's so much of abundance in all different forms. Like, we got to realize abundance is more than just money. And I look at abundance as even just of health, of just to be healthy is a huge abundance in itself, because that's, if we can't move and think and all the rest of it, then what good is life, right? So you need to have that abundance of wealth, of your health. As my health is my wealth. But let's look through of hoping that this is a year where people will start to shine, that through the world. I'm in Canada. A little bit, there's so much going on here. There's yesterday listening about how many places, like the food is so expensive. So many people are going to these food shelters now. There's not enough of them. They're even having troubles. So, to to see things in a shifting in a positive way would be, would bring my heart happiness.
So there is a big shift coming. I mean, it's not going to be an easy ride, especially for those who are on a lower consciousness, which is why another reason that I'm trying to, help as many people as possible at this stage of the game, because what we are watching unfold in this world goes back to visions that I had starting back in 2016. What I can tell everybody is to prepare. If you can stockpile, do so. If you can grow your own food, do so. Because there will be a couple bumps later this year. But don't let it bring your vibration down. It's not going to last long. So
Good.
hold on.
I like to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just a lot coming out and being disclosed finally. And when we can actually see the truth, I think that can help us to understand maybe a little more of what's going on and why. So hopefully.
Yeah. And a lot of people are just like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. And I'm with them.
Yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired of chemtrails and poison food. So
That stuff. Yeah. But
yeah,
definitely, yeah, aside that though, I mean, it's not nothing like completely nefarious. Like, I don't see the wars lasting very much longer. I
Good.
don't see that. So that's the beautiful thing. I might see Texas is down there wilding out where we're at here, but aside that, like just hold on, guys. I promise you, this year is going to kick off a lot of blessings for a lot of people. So just roll with the punches and take the blessings and be grateful. I can't tell
I'm
you.
there. I'm there.
So you heard it here first, and those are watching, this is the whole idea of let's get real. We're getting real so that we're here as three individuals to shine some light onto you, to help you in any way that we possibly can. This isn't just a show for people just to be talking, but for actually to showing you that there's light around you and there's love around you. So if you're feeling that you are on that branch where you're all alone, the whole idea is, I talked about this morning in another group that I was in. You know what? When you reach out, there's more people that want to help than that you could possibly imagine. All you need to do is just put your hand out and say, I need help. So many people will come running. And as we're coming to the end of this show, it goes far too fast. I know.
I enjoyed it. I love this show.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Tell me or tell our audience, give us a golden nugget to help them on their journey this year.
Stop living vicariously to prove yourself to everybody else. That's where most people get hung up. They're so busy trying to prove their success to everybody around them. Prove your success to you, whatever that means for you.
Beautiful. Very well said.
Thank you.
Thank you, Natasha, for joining us today. It was an honor to have you here. And, would love to give you the option of coming back another time and let's going a little bit further in. And Nicole, as always, love to hear what your final thoughts are, my dear.
Well, this for me has been a great conversation because I resonate with both of you so much. And as I always tell people, as within, so without. Whatever is going on inside of you is going to eventually come to the surface. It's going to come out. So make sure that you fall in love with yourself. Make sure that you respect yourself. And when I tell you that your heart is your truth center, I am absolutely dead serious about that. And it can be something as simple as just, taking 2 minutes to lay down, hand on your heart. And what I always say is for every question, there's an answer. For every problem, there's a solution. And then I just turn it over. But when it starts with your heart, it's coming from the goodness, it's coming from love, and it will never fail you.
Great.
Brilliant and beautiful. Thank you all for joining us today on Let's Get Real. This was a time when we had a lot of messages that we had to hear. And Natasha, it was an absolute pleasure for you to come and join us and tell us all these wonderful messages that we need to hear. But most importantly, don't forget, it starts with you. It goes around in a circle. It starts and ends with you. So begin just to do what just Nicole said and start with loving yourself first. Thank you all. And until next week, bye for now.